Now with these event handler functions, right? So there's an event and we handle the event with this function. And in that function, we have statements, right? So a function is just a sequence of statements. So I could also console log here something, right? So now this function has two statements in there that will be run when that function runs, right? So here we set the count and here we log to the console. Now a common issue with these event handler functions, right? So this is an event handler because it deals with an event, the click event in this case. Some people, they think you can just write this, beginners. So if I do this and save here, we get an error, but typically what people would try to do is put it on the same line. So we now have on click, and you could think, okay, so when there's a click, this is what we want to do. So now you don't have a separate function, right, like this. You just have set count here, and this will not work as you expect. So here, when you just specify set count like this will run immediately as this function renders. Right, so every time this function renders now, you will run this as well. Right, so if I start from a clean slate here, you can see my application actually crashes because what happens here is, and let me actually stop this. This is not what we want. So let me pull it back to the correct way of doing it. So my application crashed here because when you do it like that, so when you do it like this, I will not save here, but when you do it like this, what happens is that this component renders, so basically all the lines in here will be executed. When it gets to this line, it will immediately execute this. So not when the event occurs, but the entire thing will be executed because that's how JavaScript works here. Because if you have a function here that you call at some function, this is basically an expression that will run immediately. If you only want that to run when the event occurs, you actually have to provide a function here, an arrow function, and as part of that arrow function body, you can have this, you can call that function, and then it will only run when you actually click the button. Right, so make sure you actually pass a function here, and then in that function, you do the actual set count. Right, so this is not what we want, but what we want is this. So a function, and in the function, we do the actual state update. So why was it re-rendering when I did it like this? Well, this is because initially when we load the page, it will render all the components. So here it will immediately run this set count, which will actually change the count. So here the count will be changed, and whenever you change the state in React, it will re-render the component. So here immediately we will re-render the card component because immediately we are setting the count. So the card component will immediately re-render, and also by default all its children will re-render. So count buttons will also re-render. And here we are again immediately setting the count. So we are again changing state, and it means re-rendering. It will re-render the card component and by default also all its child components. So here all of this would re-render again. And here in this line, when it gets to this line, it will simply set the count again. Right? So that's how you get into an infinite loop and crash your app and computer, right? Because we don't want to run this whenever the component renders. We want to run this when this event occurs, right? That's how event handling works in React. So if I save here, and now it works as expected.